Welcome to episode 33 of the Flag Stays Down podcast. As always, please subscribe, rate, and review on anywhere that you would get your podcast. Tonight, we're a little shorthanded. It's myself, Andy, and got big bearded Matt along with. Still untrimmed, I see.
Oh, of course. This isn't going to get trimmed until basically wedding day or maybe a couple days beforehand. So we're just going to keep riding it out as long as we can.
You know, it was, first of all, just to throw it out there so everybody knows, we had a Flag Stays Down reunion this weekend. So Parker came down to Milwaukee. We got some FIFA in, got some Mario Karts, went to a Brewer game. Good times. Unfortunately, Parker did not make it out of Milwaukee in good health. So we definitely wish Parker all the best. Sad he can't join us on the pod. But yeah, it was a heck of a weekend. Lots of drinks consumed. I think that was my favorite part.
Yeah, it was a good time all around. Always good when the three of us get together. I'll personally take some responsibility for Parker being a little under the weather. I was a little under the weather for most of the weekend, definitely yesterday. But yeah, and Parks ended up staying with me. So Parks, my apologies. Obviously didn't mean to get you sick, but we hope that you come back quick and you're ready to go. Always great seeing you and hanging out with the boys again. It was a great time. Again, it's like we haven't missed a beat. Just things just keep rolling as usual. So it's always fun when that opportunity comes up.
Absolutely, and luckily we had some positives to talk about in terms of Chelsea this week. Definitely not good that we're bounced out of the Champions League, but we did it more or less on our own terms. It wasn't whimpering out. And then FA Cup semifinal, we're through to the final after that one. So all in all, pretty positive week. Just a rundown of those matches. Again, at the Bernabeu against Real, Mason Mount opens the score early. We're down 3-1 on aggregate. Mason Mount pulls one back 15 minutes into the game. Antonio Rudiger scores in the 51st. And then big game Timo Werner puts us ahead on aggregate in the 75th. Unfortunately, it was all downhill from there. Rodrigo scores on probably one of the greatest passes I've ever seen in the 80th, send it to extra time. And then who else but Karim Benzema in the 96th to seal it. So we're out of the Champions League. Again, heck of a fight by the boys, though. Didn't really know how they were going to come into Easter Sunday's match with Palace at Wembley. And honestly, the first half was soft, boring. It was nice hangover recovery for us, right?
Mm-hmm.
Ruben Loftus-Cheek, of course. Who else scores in the 65th? And then Mason Mount, Mason with the good hair in the 76th. To send us on into the final where we're going to face Joe Mach's Liverpool. And between the two matches, a lot of common themes. In fact, probably more than what we're going to talk about today. But Matt, what was your biggest takeaway from the week?
My biggest takeaway was the boys and the resiliency that they showed. We always talk about with the league, it's not all about like winning and being flashy. Sometimes you have to win ugly, right? And 3 points is 3 points. After a brutal and exhausting game against Madrid early in the week, you saw a lot of those same names starting again. So it's and after all the effort that they showed against Madrid, they left everything out there. And to come back and have to play the FA Cup semifinal against Palace, where you got more hardware on the line. I wasn't overly surprised that we looked very sluggish in that opening half. It wasn't a big shock to me. Obviously, when you have high standards like we do with the caliber that Chelsea plays at, you expect it, but at the same time, you can understand it. So I think it was it was somewhat warranted, but at the same time, they knew when to turn it on, right? Second half, they just dominated. And, I think that just kind of goes to show what our team is. And, I've even talked about this, like we're definitely a half by half team. And that's just kind of the way that it goes. And we definitely showed that against Palace. I think with Madrid, we kind of got the same thing too. The first half of Madrid, we looked good. Second half, we came out firing even harder. And then we saw the kind of collapse that we've seen against Real Madrid in the first leg. We kind of saw that same thing. So, it's just a tale of halves. And, you take the good with the bad. We're through to the FA Cup final. We get another shot at Liverpool for some hardware. We're out of the Champions League, but you got to be proud of the boys for everything that they've done, and not just this week, but everything that they've gone through kind of this whole year. And I think that this week kind of summed it up, right? You take one right on the chin. In the Champions League, you have those glimmers of hope where it's like, okay, we're through. We just got to hold the fort. Doesn't happen, unfortunately. And then you come back and you see the resiliency against Palace when it doesn't look promising in the first 45. So, all in all, just very proud of the heart and the fight that the boys shown this past week and basically the whole season.
Yeah, going back to the Real match, I think resiliency is exactly the word to describe that one. I mean, yeah, we go down. Well, we don't go down. We're up at that point, but 3-1, it's back level on aggregate, and then Real scores 10 minutes into the first extra time. But for the amount of obituaries I was seeing on Twitter, and Lord knows I had mine written going into the match. But for the amount of people writing the team off after that goal of season's over, this is over. They had their chances. We continued to press. We continued to take our chances. It's just the subs didn't do their job. Pulisic missed a couple sitters. Jorginho missed one. Rom, I think, missed another. The chances were there, and they kept fighting. This wasn't like what we've seen in the past where we go down a goal or two, or in this case, go down on aggregate, and then things just kind of spiral out of control. It was resilient. They kept going, and to first of all see the emotion after the game. You saw Rudiger screaming and literally punching the pitch. A couple players in tears and all that. To come back and basically in the last competition that we're fighting in the FA Cup, and to come out and deal with Palace's press, to deal with everything that they were throwing at us, and then to come out in that second half and score was resilient. Definitely proud of the boys. I know last week we were talking about, maybe we just got thumped twice in a week. Is this the sanctions catching up? Is this the ownership situation catching up? Is this fatigue? At this point, it just looks like a blip. Unfortunately, it's a poorly timed blip. But I think we saw this week that they're still there. There's probably a mental lapse last week.
Yeah, the other thing is, like, let's not forget, like, we won the game against Madrid. Like, we won 3-2.
Right.
Like, it's not a bad thing. The only problem is Madrid beat us 3-1 the match before. That's really what it was. You take away a couple things here and there. One of our subs capitalizes on one of their opportunities, right? Mendy doesn't have that mistake in the first leg that allows Benzema to score. You look at all those things, you're like, okay, we were one thing away from being set. And, we, at least in the second half of the year, we look very, very much like a bend, don't break team. And a couple times you're going to break. And it's just the timing of when all that happened just was not ideal. But the boys keep fighting. They keep showing out as much as they can every single time. And we've said they play the most matches out of anybody this year, out of anybody. And when you pile on the injuries and stuff like that, yeah, you're going to have a lot of tired legs. You're going to have a lot of people kind of looking for form, in and out, things like that. So the fact that we're still as competitive a team as we are, despite all of that, I think speaks a lot to Tuchel and the players and how much they care and they understand what comes with, when you have that badge on your chest, what's expected of you. And I think the boys have been at that level for 90 to 95% of the season. Just unfortunately some unlucky breaks and just poorly timed unlucky breaks.
Yeah, and I don't think Real Madrid was necessarily or is necessarily the better team. I think their reputation precedes them. I thought we were by far the better team over two legs. It was just a couple mental errors. But then you look at the squad itself, the depth. The only thing we're really missing that Madrid has is a Luka Modric, but just not even above a world-class player, somebody who transcends. And just that pass he made was the difference.
And even the pass he made in the first leg, like two of his assists were ridiculous. Like you could not place the ball any better. Like if you were just walk up there and just hold it and be like, here, just take it right out of my hands. You could not place it any better than where he put his 2 assists. They were perfect. And sometimes like you need that in order to beat a team. When you got 2 heavyweights going at it, you need that kind of precision, that kind of class to just make one thing happen. And he did it twice. And, with somebody like Luka, you kind of expect that out of him. He does play well in that type of environment. He's usually not somebody to get lost in a lot of those games. So, it's kind of, I wouldn't say expected, but you definitely have to plan for those moments of class where he's going to give opportunities. And, when you have Benzema with the season that he's having, when you have him beyond in form at this point, like you almost expect that ball to go in every single time. And, things just clicked for him at the right time. And, we gave it hell. Unfortunately, just came up a little bit short.
There's one thing that made me sad watching the end of that game, and God, I should have just turned it off as soon as that whistle blew. But seeing Rudiger, like I said, punching the ground, literally all he can do is primal scream to get rid of all of the feeling of the match. And I've been there. I was the exact same kind of player, Matt. I'd be breaking my knuckles several times, punching the ground, and it drew me back to 2012 when we won the Champions League, and that was, you could see it coming. It was kind of an end of an era. John Terry was going to be gone, Lampard was going to be gone, Drogba was going to be gone, Cech was near the end of his career. There was a lot there that was going to be gone, and while we do have a young core, certainly in the attack, Timo, Kai, Mason Mount, you got Reece James. Pulisic, if you want to look there, Loftus-Cheek. There are young core players in this team, but there's another core of this team that this probably was the last hurrah for. And, we're all hopeful Rudiger comes back. I know we are, but there's the possibility that he doesn't. And, he may feel that, if the ownership thing isn't squared away, like I have to get my stuff in order. I have to go somewhere else. So this may have been, him feeling this is the last hurrah. But Thiago Silva is only going to be around for another year. That midfield, N'Golo Kante, Jorginho, Marcus Alonso out on the left. We've got some aging guys. We've got some guys who are coming down to the end of their contract that may not be renewed. And so I kind of felt that a little bit of this next year going into the Champions League, maybe a completely different squad outside of 5, 6, 7 guys. And it made it tough to watch.
Yeah. I think you bring up a great point. and we've kind of started looking into this in our recent episodes, but specifically looking at Conte and Jorginho, right? Two guys who were essentially the core of the team last year. Those two, and then obviously Kova is starting to come into his own. But you see now I think you see kind of the age, right? We've seen this with N'Golo Kante. He's a little bit more injured than he has been in the past. He's kind of used more as like a John Obi Mikel type role. Like if we're up, you bring him in the 70th in the 70th minute just to lock everything up. And also to save his minutes so he's not fatigued. Jorginho, not the same player. He's just not the same player. I don't know if that's because Kova's kind of been taking that over, or what's been going on. Maybe the surgence of somebody like an RLC, kind of starting to find his own path in this team. But you look at that, and then you look at also the guys that we have coming back from loan, right? So as you're looking at that, you start to see something along the lines of, you've got Conor Gallagher coming back. You've got Billy G coming back. You've got a lot of people on loan that are doing some really good things right now. You look at the striker situation, you have Broja possibly coming back as well. I think we have a buyback clause for Tammy. So, that's an option. He's having a great year at Roma. So there's definitely options, and there is a lot of youth. I wouldn't call next year a rebuild. I would just kind of call it more of a transition. And I think that we have enough of a core to still be a top 4 team in England. Definitely, I think a top 10 team in Europe. But as we've seen with a lot of transitions, it takes about a year or so to really get a foothold in who's playing where, making sure that the chemistry is where it needs to be. But I think if anybody's going to be able to do that, Tuchel's going to be able to do that at a much faster rate than most. So, I kind of have to agree. I think it is kind of the end of an era that we've had since basically Sarri, right? When Jorginho came in, things like that. So I think we're kind of at that point, a good 5-year run at the top, and then you just kind of take a step back, try and get some more youth into it, and see what can happen. Let these players grow, and who knows? We talk very highly of Conor Gallagher. I talk very highly of Billy G. Those are two guys that I think could slot in there and play really well for us. And then when you include that with a Kovacic, with an RLC, right? You got a 4-person rotation. I think that's going to be really dangerous. You're going to have Benny Chills coming back. Obviously, Reece James. I believe Dave is back for another year. I think I read that he's back for another year, which is fantastic. There's your leadership. You have Silva coming back again. I think Trev, if he stays healthy and he can continue a consistent good run of form, he will be a solidified center back. Obviously, we all know Rudy's situation, but I think that we could have a really good team going into next year. It's just, I think that we have to be realistic about the expectations of it as we go forward and bring in a lot of new pieces.
And then, as we look at kind of how the roster breaks down, we may be losing 2, maybe 3 defenders this year. Yes, Dave's contract triggered that, it's extended because he played X amount of matches, but there's no guarantee that means he's sticking around. Rudiger, like I mentioned, could stay, could go. Christensen, gone at this point. Then Tuchel has come out now and talked about next year's situation where Jorginho and Conte are going to be both in the last year of their deals. And we've seen it in the past under Roman Abramovich that once you hit 30, it starts to be 1-year deals. Both of those players are going to be I believe Conte is going to be 32 by the time the season rolls around next year. Jorginho will be 31. Are either of those guys going to want 1-year deals? It's tough to say. I'd like to think Conte would. Jorginho, it kind of seems like he's sniffing around at other clubs. But the situation needs to be resolved. And I think it needs to be resolved this summer. No going into the season wondering if these guys are going to be leaving on a free. And yeah, it's Gallagher. I don't think we're getting Erling Haaland this year. Word is he's going to City. That's the news today. So yeah, maybe a Declan Rice is in play, or a Tocheme from Monaco.
I'll even give you Pogba.
Yeah, or Paulie P.
I'll give you Pogba.
So it should be interesting going into next year. And again, it's gonna be tough to watch these next couple games, especially after I realize that it's a lot of guys whose contracts are coming up. So we shall see. But enough with the eulogy here. Let's talk some positives. First one I wanted to talk is going on a little bit off script here is Ruben Loftus-Cheek. Matt, I know you and Parker have been high on him for a long time. He's another guy just like Mason Mount, just like Kai Havertz, just like Pulisic, where it's been, what's his best position? Where do we play him? He's looked good in certain roles. He's looked okay at other times. He's been playing on the right the last couple matches, and honestly, he's looked real good. I mean, you can't even say like, oh, it was against Southampton. No, he played right wing back against Real Madrid, and he looked good outside of a poor maybe first 15 minutes. I thought he's looked real good. So I feel like we hit on this with a different player every week. Is this something that's sustainable, or is this just kind of a flash in the pan form for RLC?
So I think, and I think that we've talked about this before, like with somebody like an RLC, he was with Fulham 2 years ago? Or was that 3 years ago? Last year? Mm-hmm. He did pretty well. He had a fairly decent season with a struggling Fulham team. I thought he put together a pretty nice season, all things considered. But the biggest thing for him is that he needs reps. He needs first team reps. He's been out on loan at a bunch of different places. Now we've always said he's big, he's physical. And now you're starting to see all of that come together. And now you're also seeing the technique. He's starting to understand the system, how he's supposed to play. I think that's the biggest thing, right? He's definitely gotten a lot more chances this year than any other year. So I think that consistency is only helping him more than a loan would do. And he's 25, I believe. So, I mean, at some point, you got to make a decision. You either keep him or you sell him. You can't keep sending him out on loan and whatever. So I think that right now, that right midfield spot is very well suited for him. I think he understands that side of the field. I think he understands what's expected of him. He's starting to develop their relationship with Dave, with Reese. If you're putting Thiago Silva there, he's starting to understand that. And then regardless of who you have on the right, whether it's Mount or Pulisic or Ziyech, Kai up top, right? Like he's starting to understand all that. And when you pair him with Kova, I'm pretty sure he's been paired with Kova a lot lately. I mean, right there, Kova's coming back. I would assume RLC is coming back. So I think that the more that he gets the opportunity to start and play and develop that chemistry with his team, I think he still has a ridiculous upside. And I still don't think that we've seen the best of him yet. So if we're happy about what we're seeing now, I expect more of that in the next, 5 years from him.
So I think playing on the right, like you said, the right of midfield it may be his best position, especially if we stick in this formation, kind of the 3-4-3 kind of thing. playing as that right wing back. Because if I were to ask you what's RLC's greatest attribute, like what is the thing that he's best at, what would you say?
I would say, well, I'm going to say this kind of tongue in cheek. I'm going to say his strength. I really think that's his best attribute, is how strong and how physical he is. I really do. He's what, 6'3", 6'4". Pretty sure he's a tall individual. So, I mean, that's basically myself and Parker. You tack on probably another 20, 30 pounds that you got RLC, right? Like he's a big guy. He can hold up the play. He can move too. Like he's fast, but I think his biggest thing is his strength. And in the midfield, you need strength when you're trying to hold possession of the ball. I do say that a little tongue in cheek because he is prone to losing the ball in possession. But I think that's kind of once he gets going forward and tries to do almost a little bit too much. So I think there's a little bit of inexperience on that side, but I would say his strength in the midfield is probably his best attribute right now. What about you?
You didn't set me up like the way I was anticipating you to.
I'm not Luka Modric.
Yeah, Ruben Loftus-Cheek. What I was going for here, I was hoping you'd say. I agree. Strength definitely is one of them. His ability to run at people.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
His ability to break down the defense by strength, I guess, throwing people off him and just kind of finding that open space and going through it. And I think we talked about back in what was it, October, about how the inverted wings, the wing backs were coming inside instead of staying wide. I think that right there fits Ruben Loftus-Cheek perfectly, because he's got Reece James. The last couple of times he's had Reece James right behind him at center back. Against Southampton, I think he had Kova next to him, but Real he had N'Golo next to him. So another guy who's not afraid to get up the pitch. And then you got Mason Mount kind of free forming ahead of him. But Ruben to attack people in the middle with the way we play just doesn't work, because essentially we have two midfielders and we're being outnumbered. So it's hard for two to dribble through four, right? Whereas if you put him out on that right wing back and allow him to work his way in from there, you're only dealing with one, maybe two people instead of two, maybe three. So I think what we saw was Tuchel basically opening up the Madrid defense and opening up Southampton's defense by allowing Ruben Loftus-Cheek to kind of free flow on that right wing back to be able to go outside, to drift inside. And how many times do we see him on the edge of the box for a right back? I mean, we don't even see Reece James up, at least on the counter, up there as much as we saw Ruben Loftus-Cheek. So I think that's a masterclass from Tuchel right there, and I hope, like I said, that turns out to be RLC's best position and something that works and something we can deploy, when you need to give Reece James a break or Dave a break. Yeah,
I mean, and you throw that up to also how versatile he is. He can play any position. He's played center back, basically everything from center back to attacking mid.
And center forward.
And center forward this whole season. He's played damn near everything but goalie, right? Which he could probably do a halfway decent job at. I wouldn't be surprised. But he's one of those people who is a very versatile and somebody you can throw in anywhere. I personally would have liked to see him at left back over Saul and Alonso, but you hope for the best. But anyways, no, I agree. I think that right wing back would maybe be as like a fatigue game for Reece or Dave if we have big back-to-backs. Like if we have a City, Liverpool or something, Champions League, and we have a quick turnaround, something like that. I could see him sliding into that role. I don't think that would be a good day in, day out position for him. I think that's a very kind of as needed, definitely flexible if you do run into the situation like we did with Madrid where he can open things up. but I would say a long-term position for him would be in that right mid part of like a 4-3-3. I think that'd be a good spot for him. Obviously, you're still going to have Reese and Chills bombing down the flanks, but if you can get RLC kind of into that middle position, also defending a little bit and still given the opportunity to run at people, I think that's where he's going to shine.
And another player who's had kind of a resurgence here, Timo Werner. Boy, it's funny. It's funny how this works because it always seems like we are ripping somebody a new one, and then it's a week or two later, all of a sudden things just click for that player. So Chelsea fans, you're welcome. You're welcome for that.
We're sorry we were a little late on that.
Timo Werner in his last 3 games, 3 goals, 2 assists. In that time, Chelsea scored 11 goals with him starting. It's I don't know. Timo's weird. It's comical at this point what Timo does. I can't really put my finger on on what changed, but something did. You know, it's like, I guess I got my swagger back or something. What do you think about Timo Werner?
He is the biggest anomaly since probably Mario Balotelli. You don't know what you're going to get out of him. You know what you expect out of him, but he can have one game where he is just non-existent, then another game where he's man of the match. And Collins, you're going to have to give me some numbers on this, but I believe it was the last 3 matches that he's been our man of the match for the Flag Stays Down Twitter poll.
He's now the season leader with 6.
Like, how? It's just one of those things. I don't know what's changed. I don't know if he's just given more freedom to do Timo things. I don't know if that international break when he was playing with Germany, if that triggered something in him. I really don't know. But whatever happened, I like it. That's the Timo that we expect. And I'm, better late than never at this point, right? That race for top 4 is going to heat up pretty quick, especially as the end of the season comes through. So, if we're solidifying that 3rd spot right now, it's a great time to have him out there. Kai is doing okay. He struggled a little bit, I think recently, but we're looking at it form comparatively, right? Talking about somebody who was probably an 8 or 9 out of 10 average for probably the last month and a half. And when he's putting up like a 6-8 or whatever his numbers were over the last few, like, okay, that's expected. Like, you can't keep up that run of form forever. That's fine. We expect it. But the fact that now we see Timo kind of picking up some of that, we see the Mason Mount resurgence, kind of coming from, we don't really know what's going on with him, to now he's scoring at will. Like, and to see that we're getting goals from the attack, I think is probably the biggest thing that's changed. We're not relying, like, obviously, the Brentford game, the Rudy Wonder strike, the big eyes, the tongue hanging out is a celebration. You love it. He also had another goal against Madrid. Like, that's great, but you're starting to see more out of the attack, and that's something we've been calling for since, I don't know, probably early November. Yeah, like early November, maybe late October. But that was also when Reese and Chills were just playing out of their minds. So, it's something that we've been waiting to see, and it's nice to finally see it.
And the great thing about Timo scoring is that it has thrown fuel on the fire of the Rom out crowd and the news. There is a lot of smoke around Rom leaving now, and Chelsea taking as little as 40 mil to get rid of him. The more Timo scores, the more that's going to intensify. And we have seen a direct direct correlation with how Timo plays compared to how Rom plays. Rom has been trash, literal trash during this run that Timo had.
Collins, no sugarcoat it. You're being way too nice.
Yeah, you know what? Here, I'll put it this way. The Chicago Cubs are rebuilding. The Ricketts wanted Chelsea. We will trade Romelu Lukaku to the Cubs for, I don't like, some RC Cola or something, right?
Yeah.
Is that what they serve down there?
Yeah, probably.
Cheap bastards.
Yeah. Or what's the other one? What's the other soda you could get at like Dollar Tree? Was that Fago or something like that?
Oh yeah.
FAYGO. Yeah.
Some Jolly Good.
Oh yeah. Real good stuff.
No, but I want to talk more about Timo, but now I'm thinking about Rom and his misses, because I mean it was even what was it against Palace? Yeah, he came on against Palace, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I knew I was remembering him missing some sitters somewhere.
Any game he comes on the pitch,
he had two balls put on a platter, one from like 2 yards away, blasted off the post. Like, that's not $100 million striker, nowhere close. And then I counted 5 thumbs ups. Oh, and the best one of all was, I believe it was Ziyech was down on the left, made a cut inside, was just on the edge of the penalty area to the left there, sends a ball, as any player would in that scenario, across the face of goal of the far post on the ground. What does Rom do? Rom stops his run, moves backwards deeper into the box, and then complains that the ball should have found him there. What? Why? Why are you so counterculture? Timo Werner would have been there.
Timo or Pulisic or I don't know, insert Chelsea player here who would have done just fine and would have made that run regardless.
Dave would have been there.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's frustrating. I'm hoping that there's only just a couple matches left. We have to watch this garbage from him.
Yeah, I think we're all kind of hoping for that. Again, he had a good start to the season when he first came over. He had a real good start, and then that interview just completely fucked him up. It like you can pinpoint it to that exact moment. That is when everything went sideways, and well, unfortunately, his shots have also gone sideways. So I don't know. For being $100 million striker, you need to be able to put the ball away. He did that interview. He had to have known what was going to happen out of that. Like, no person with common sense is going to be like, oh, I'm just going to say this and everything's going to be fine. No, absolutely not. If you think that, no, just get the fuck out of here. He did it intentionally. I really think he did. And I think that he's been trying to like kind of recover or like save some face. But the fact that you can't put the ball in the net when it's served to you on a platter from 5-10 yards out, you're telling me you can't put a ball in the back of the net. That is terrible. I will take a $30 million striker who can do that half the time, because I know that Rom can't do it a quarter of the time, maybe even a tenth of the time.
Yeah, I'm looking at his line now, and since the interview, he has 4 goals in 19 appearances. His goals have come against Al Hilal, Palmeiras, Luton Town, and Middlesbrough.
Yeah.
He hasn't scored in the league since December 29th.
Yep. That tells you everything you need to know.
Whew. Man, like Timo's been more consistent than that. I'm sorry.
Yeah,
Timo, I'm sorry I didn't recognize that earlier, but
it's just bad. It's just bad. Like when you come with that kind of price tag, you obviously need to do your job, and he has not been doing it. Honestly, get the most amount of money you can get out of it, chalk it up as a loss, and bring back Broja or Tammy. Go get Zlatan or Giroud. Go get somebody from AC Milan. I really don't care at this point, but get someone, not Ron.
Let's get back to the positives here, because there was one other player I wanted to recognize as having a positive match, and we recognized him last week as well, and that's Mason with the good hair, Mason Mount. He now has, let's see, 11 goals and or goals and assists in his last 9 matches for Chelsea. That's that's another great run right there, right?
Yep. For somebody we gave a lot of shit to.
Yeah, it's 4 goals, 2 assists in his last 3. It's pretty astounding, and sadly, it all correlates to him getting a haircut, and I don't know what that's about, but it's nice to see these guys finally. Even though we're out of the league now, we're out of the Champions League, all that. It would have been nice to have these guys back in December, but to see the young guys kind of hitting a stride and not basically letting a bad season, a bad first half of the season wear them down. We talk about Kai Havertz building himself up, Timo Werner in the last couple of weeks, Mason Mount, Pulisic had a nice run for a while there. Hakim Ziyech. We talked about earlier in the year, is it sustainable if the attack can't score? And very clearly it was not. We were wrong about that. But we have seen a gluttony of goals in the last couple matches, and it's because the attack is clicking. And Mason Mount a lot of times is at the heart of that attack, playing right behind the 2 center forwards. So, it's nice to see Cobham. It's nice to see Mason Mount. Nice to see Chelsea's attack firing on all cylinders.
And I think I'll take it one step further. I think a big part of that, because if I remember correctly, Mason has been starting on the right.
Primarily, yeah.
Guess who just came back as a right wing back?
Ruben Loftus-Cheek.
Stop. But when him and Reese were playing, both of them were something else. They've been playing together for how long? Starting in Cobham, I have no idea when they started. They were probably what?
I know Reese came as a U8. I don't know Mace's backstory.
He was probably like a U12 or something. So I mean, they've been coming up together for a long time. I guarantee you, like, that level of chemistry, it's hard to teach. You only get that through years and years. But you definitely saw things change when Reese came back and being able to kind of free up Mace. I think Mace having a little bit more of that free form, not necessarily just on the right, but him being a lot more free form, able to kind of do what he needs to do to get open and open up those pockets of space. But I think a part of that has to be contributed to Reese. I really do. Because, how many times have we seen it? Reese puts in a ball to Mace, and then you see Reese on the overlap, and that opens everything up. Then you got 3 people in the box, provided Rom's not out there. You got 3 people in the box, and then you just have Reese firing one in, or dishing it back to Mace, something like that. And then you include that with Mace's consistency now, playing with Kai, playing with Timo. You could even look at somebody like Akova, even RLC's latest form. You can see all of that stuff really starting to click. So it's definitely Mason getting back to the Mason of old, but I think it's those other pieces, that chemistry finally clicking, and especially with Reese coming back, I think you're starting to see Mason open up a lot more, and giving him that extra bit of confidence to know that, he's probably protected. If something happens down the right or whatever, he's able to to kind of go with a little bit more attitude, a little bit more vigor. He's definitely free to do what he needs to do to open things up.
And I'm hoping that that Tuchel sticks with this attacking three, especially this week. I would love to keep Arsenal out of the top four. And that's who we have midweek this week. This is Arsenal's game in hand that they have on Spurs and Manchester United. So it's currently Spurs, United, Arsenal for that last four spot. Spurs is on 57, United and Arsenal are on 54. So Arsenal needs a win here. We don't necessarily need it. We have 2 games in hand on Spurs and Man U and a 5-point lead. So part of me thinks that some guys are going to get some rest here, but this is the London Derby. I don't think we've dropped points against a London team this year.
Not that I recall. I'd have to go back and look at that.
Yeah, I think when I was looking, it was like 8 wins and a draw or something like that. Or so I guess we have dropped points. We just haven't lost. So how do we feel going into this Arsenal match? At this point, it seems like maybe we can kind of go into cruise control a little bit. Again, we've got 8 matches left to play. We've got 2 games in hand on the people behind us. We're 9 points out of the teams above us. So we're kind of sitting in that middle ground. Meanwhile, Arsenal's going to be chasing. Arsenal need it because Arsenal fan TV was all about, hey, we're making the Champions League next year. I'm not so sure.
Well, if they do, they're going to be knocked out in the group stage. I think we can all agree on that. I think we're in a bit of a dangerous position. And the reason why I say that is because we're coming off an emotionally exhausting week, right? With Madrid and then also with Palace. We have a lot of guys who are tired. Kova was taken off early, and that's how RLC got on and scored that beautiful goal against Palace. I'm worried not having Kova out there. I am. I think he's kind of solidified his spot as the center midfield of this team. We know Arsenal is going to be high press. They're going to be full blown doing everything they can. Sacco on the right. Who's the guy on the left? Is that Martinelli on the left? You're going to have Lacazette up top. They're going to have a lot of speed going there. Rudy has just played 2 games in a row. Luckily, Thiago Silva got some rest. Don't know if we're going to go with Reese or Dave on the right wing. Christensen, I don't know. Trev, I don't know if he's back yet. I don't know who you run on the left, if you're going to have Alonso, if you're going to have Saul, or what you're going to do. So, and the fact that Arsenal just lost to Southampton over the weekend. So I think we're in a little bit of a vulnerable position, but I go back to bend, not break. I think that's going to be the kind of game it is. We bend a little bit on the defensive side because our defense has been a little bit suspect lately. But as long as we can keep the ball moving quick, which we did not do against Palace in the first half, and we did against Madrid, we were moving the ball real quick, opening up a lot of things. If we can move the ball quick, then I think that we have a real good chance against Arsenal. And I'm gonna say 3-1 Chelsea.
I think 3-1 is a good number. I think Arsenal maybe gets an early goal and then that's it. The thing that gives me confidence about this one is that we're playing them at Stamford Bridge. We have looking through the past fixture list, we've won all but 3 of our last 13 matches against Arsenal at home. And let's see, we've got 5 clean sheets in that time. Now, granted, Arsenal, their squad changes every year, changes fixture to fixture. Who knows how many red card accumulations they have, or
is AFCON going on?
Yeah,
I just want to make sure of that.
How many fake
the match might be postponed. We never know.
Fake COVID cases, and so who knows? But our Arteta is not, he's not a big game manager. I laugh shitting on Arsenal. We haven't done shitting on Arsenal in a while.
No.
Here's my shitting on Arsenal moment. Unai Emery is on to the Champions League semifinals with Villarreal. Yes, Villarreal typically does well in the Europa League, but they're in the semifinals of the Champions League. You fired that man to bring in Mikel Arteta, who was Arsenal in were they in the Conference League this year, or was that Spurs?
Spurs were in the Conference League until they had to bow out of it because of COVID.
That's right. So yeah, so they're in the Europa League. I don't think Arsenal has sniffed the Champions League under Arteta.
And if they have, well, we know their history. They always pull Bayern in the round of 16.
Yeah.
So
I don't think Arteta can manage big games. I don't trust him as far as I can throw him. I think Tuchel outclasses him in this. I would love to see the same press that we employed against Madrid, just constant back in your own box, every loose ball. I would love to see that against Arsenal and just a 6-0 drubbing. But we'll see.
I mean, I think any Chelsea fan would be all about that, especially against Arsenal. But yeah, to me, it's just that weird scenario. The week that we just had, they're coming off a loss against Southampton, who we kicked the snot out of. And I don't know, I feel like Arsenal is going to be, they're going to be at a different, more intense level than I think we will be. Just because they're looking for that top 4 spot. We've got it relatively solidified. Obviously having the 2 games in hand helps, and we do have that 5-point cushion, but anything can happen towards the end of the season. And I think Arsenal is going to come out, excuse the pun, but guns a-blazing. So I'm a little worried for that. I think, if we can hold up for the first, I think if we can hold up for the first 15 minutes of the first half and the first 10 minutes of the second half, I think we'll win. But it's just going to be about weathering that storm early on in the start of those 2 halves that I think is really gonna set the tone.
The only thing that makes me worry, and this isn't even like a game related worry, is that I'm traveling to Kansas City for work this week. And the last time I traveled to Kansas City for work was the day that Roman announced he was selling the club.
Well, good news is Ricketts is out, so you won't be hearing that news.
Right.
So you have that in your back pocket.
Yeah. So hopefully no big injuries. Hopefully Ricketts isn't back in. I can't even think of anything worse than that, but hopefully good vibes this week from Chelsea.
That's the goal.
All right, Matt, any closing thoughts?
Not really. Just good. It was a good week to be a Chelsea supporter when you see the heart that the boys showed against Madrid and then coming back against Palace. It makes you believe that you have people on the team, on the pitch, playing for the badge, minus Rom. So I'm very proud of the boys, and I'm happy to see how they finish off the rest of the season.
Amen. Well, on that note, we'll close it out for this week. Again, Parker, we hope you get better. We'll be talking to you next week. In the meantime, as I said earlier in the pod, if you like what you listen to here, go ahead and subscribe, rate, and review wherever you get your podcasts. Spotify, it's real easy to do. You just click how many stars. They don't ask you for any opinions or anything. So go ahead and do that. Do it multiple times if you want. We're not on Twitch today because Parker's the one who handles that, but usually you can catch us Sunday nights, 8:30 p.m. on Twitch. You can follow us there at Flag Down Pod. You can follow us on social media. You can follow myself, Andy, at Comiskey North. You can follow Matt at Matus Lee. You can follow Parker at DJ Parkour. You can also follow the pod at Flag Down Pod. And that's for all social media, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. Once again, I did not write a script for that. I think I nailed it. Did I get everything?
Pretty good. That was pretty good. I like it.
All right. Well, then we'll close out with a cheers and hashtag.
Also, Collins,
Yeah.
one quick thing. What episode are we on?
Do we not do that?
Are we on 33?
Ah, fuck.
That happens.
Yes, 33. All right, give me your favorite 33.
I think it has to be the current 33. I think it has to be Emerson.
Leon's Emerson. Yes.
Or you have
Give me my guy Thomas Kalish.
you have Tomas Kalish, or you also have Alex.
Oh, the bald-headed wonder.
Yes. So you do have your choice of which one you would like to name the pod after.
All right, I'm going Kalish. What do you think?
I can live with that. I can live with that.
All right. Awesome. Well, on that note, cheers to Kalish, no to Ricketts, and Rom out.
Amen. Parker, get better. Miss you, brother.
I'm all potted out.